on to the next talking point. Hillary Clinton has been exposed for funneling millions of taxpayers' money into the Clinton Foundation. Surprise, surprise, isn't it? There were two investigators that were leading this investigation. John Moynihan. I don't know how to pronounce his name properly, so I probably may have butchered his name, but it's John Moynihan and Larry Doyle. They testified in Congress detailing the fraud and the scheme. She was able to avoid paying $2.5 billion in taxes, this woman, and the Clinton Foundation. So if you guys want to listen to more about this report, I'll put a link in the description. It was being covered by a podcast, I think Thomas Paine podcast, and they go into more further detail exposing what they uncovered in this investigation. Okay? Now, the other talking point I want to share with you guys is that President Donald Trump made an executive order blocking property of certain persons associated with the International Criminal Court. When you read this headline, you get the impression that he's blocking their property if they're related to any type of criminal activity and that's being carried out by the International Criminal Court. But actually, upon reading this executive order, it's actually it paints a very different picture. I'm going to read some of the points that was addressed in this executive order, and it goes, I therefore determine that any attempt by the ICC to investigate, arrest, detain, or prosecute any United States personnel without consent of the United States or of personnel of countries that are United States allies and who are not parties to the Rome Statute or have not otherwise consented to ICC jurisdiction constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States, and I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. So, as you can see from what I just read, it gives you a totally different picture to what the headline of that executive order. When I read the whole entire executive order, to summarize what is being written there, basically President Donald Trump is blocking any personnel, any criminal in the United States from being exported out of the United States. Okay, so basically, if the ICC, the International Criminal Court, let's say they want to investigate Hillary Clinton, or they want to investigate Joe Biden, or let's say Barack Obama, they want, before this EO, this executive order was proclaimed, they had the jurisdiction to be able to come in and investigate, and if they need to, extradite these criminals into other jurisdiction for them to carry on their investigation. But the president, the POTUS, has put in motion this executive order blocking them from doing any type of investigation, and they're not allowed to even move forward with the investigation without the U.S.'s consent. But the executive order also blocks the family members of the ICC from entering U.S., and they block all of any personnel from the ICC from entering the U.S. as well too. So it's a really unusual executive order when you just read it for the first time, but when you have a think about it, it's a bit smart, because the ICC may as well be another cabal institution trying to now rescue their cabal members and extradite them to another jurisdiction and carry out their own bogus investigation. So by placing this executive order, the POTUS pretty much bar them from doing their own investigation. They're not allowed to extradite these criminals. These people need to stay in America, and the POTUS and the American legal justice system will carry out their own investigation. So if you think about it, it's actually quite a smart and strategic move on the POTUS's part that he is not allowing any foreign entity to come into America and take these criminals away and carry their own investigation. If they're U.S. personnel, the U.S. will carry out their own investigation and do what they need to do. Okay, so I just thought I want to explain that executive order because reading the headline alone, you don't get that picture that he's blocking their property. It goes a lot more. It totally is a totally different executive order altogether. He's actually just blocking the ICC from trying to impose their laws and their jurisdiction on the U.S. without his consent. So basically, that's what that EO is about. That executive order is about. Okay, guys. Now, moving on to the next talking point. Black Lives Matter. Now, this is a very controversial movement because the African American population is being used and being manipulated to support this movement and to claim that it is about equality, social justice, but in actuality, the money that's being raised for Black Lives Matter is going towards the Democratic Party. Okay, Q sends a Twitter link linking to this post of the top recipient of the money that's being collected by BLM. Okay, so here are the names. They're all Democratic people. Another thing that people need to be aware is that BLM also stands for Baal, Lucifer, and Moloch. So if you really want to know who you're serving, it's not even George Soros. The money and all your energy that's being poured into this movement, BLM, is actually going to funnel and being used to support the dark forces, the satanic forces, the same force that we're trying to get rid of. They're now using and manipulating the African American community to support financially to the Democratic Party because they're hurting for money. Their properties have probably been seized by now. They got no money. And they know their popularity is on the decline. So what do they have to do? They started a race war to now start this BLM movement, Black Lives Matter, which is just a cover-up for the real movement, which is supporting BLM, which is Baal, Lucifer, and Moloch. Okay, so this is really important information for you to get out to the mass population, so that way they, one, stop supporting the BLM financially, and number two, take your Twitter account and go to these companies that have publicly declared to financially support BLM. There's many companies that put these banners on their website saying they're going to support BLM. Well, you know what? Go to Twitter and expose them what BLM actually stands for. It stands for the Satanic Luciferian Force that has been controlling and manipulating, deceiving this entire planet for thousands of years, and has been responsible for all these ritualistic killing and pedophilia and satanic ritual abuses on these children. So boycott the companies that are supporting BLM. Take your Twitter account and let your perspective be known on Twitter that the companies that are supporting BLM are actually supporting Baal, Lucifer, and Moloch. Okay, guys? Now let's talk about timeline.